Hi, and welcome back to It Can't Hurt to Ask, a podcast by Queensland Health. I'm Steph.
I'm Alex.
And I'm Caitlin. We are your hosts as we journey through the first 5 years of parenting and the roller coaster of emotions that come with them.
Now this week, we're diving into the 2 to 3-year-old stage. You might know it as the age of big questions, big feelings, and sometimes experiencing these in public.
Yeah.
It's also the age of why. Why are bananas yellow? Why can't I have an icy pole for breakfast? Why do I have to wear pants?
Classic. And it's when our kids really start noticing the world around them, including different kinds of families they might see, both in their lives and in care settings. Before we dive in, how have your weeks been, Steph and Alex?
Yeah, thanks, Caitlin. This week, my 6-month-old just started solids and, oh my gosh, it is so different the second time around. I remember that we were just so stressed out the first time, like worried about everything, worried that our daughter was going to have a reaction to something, going to choke. But now it's just like, oh, all right, this is just a thing that we do now. This is fine. That first moment when we're all sitting at the dinner table together and we're having dinner together, it was just one of those moments where you just look around and you're like, oh, this is actually really special and this is what it's all about. So that was nice to just acknowledge that and just feel that moment all together. What about you, Alex? How's your week been?
It's been good. I like how you're talking about family and food and dinner times. They are special moments. And our house is a little bit different at the moment. Our daughter's nearly 4. There's my mum in her 80s, 2 teenagers, me and my wife. So dinner times are a bit more chaotic. We're working around lots of different schedules, end of day with daycare. There's a little rundown of what the best friends were up to today and things like that, quite often followed by a bit of a meltdown. And I think one of the things I found having that kind of intergenerational family was at the beginning when my mum moved in with us, there was a bit of a clash between everybody's different needs at different times of life, from teenagers to young children to older people. But, you know, over time, we're starting to make that dinner time something of a time where we can all get together. It's probably the one time where we do all sit down and we do share stories. And bit by bit, we're starting to treat that as a space where we get to see each other for our true selves, if that makes sense. How about you, Caitlin?
I had a really special thing happen this week. My 7-year-old got an award on assembly, which for him, he works so hard at school and it's not easy, but I'm so proud of him and the effort he puts in. And his award was for what I felt a really nice reason. He is a maths whiz, loves maths, but he's not sort of cocky about it. He's like very humble and unassuming mostly about his maths abilities. And the award was for sharing his learning and understanding of maths with his peers and helping them with their schoolwork. And I just thought that was such a nice reason to get an award. I'm so proud of him. And yeah, it's always nice to see your kid recognised for being kind.
Absolutely.
Before we get into it, we want to acknowledge the traditional custodians on the land on which we're recording. For us, it's Meanjin, land of the Yagara and Turrbal people. We pay our respects to elders past and present and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander listeners, including our parents and caregivers out there.
Joining us today is Early Intervention Clinician Karen, who works closely with families navigating toddler years. Karen, thanks for being here. Can you tell us a bit about what your day-to-day work involves?
Yeah, thanks, Steph. So I work as an early intervention clinician, which we're a team of social workers or psychologists that help families to gain the tools for their own parenting journey. We want to offer early help because small challenges can become bigger ones. But we know if we can help early, it's going to be better for everybody. Things can feel like a roller coaster sometimes. And of course, everybody's needs are different in every family. So in our job, sometimes that means that we're helping to manage stress or we're supporting parents and caregivers around the challenges that they're experiencing at home. Or we're helping to help them build strong attachment between parent and child. And sometimes we're also just helping with, say, anxiety and depression. And we do this in one appointment or across a number of appointments, and we also run groups as well, Steph.
We're seeing some interesting things at this 2-year-old stage, more emotional outbursts. So Karen, what is actually going on in a toddler's brain during a tantrum, and how can we as their parents help them through this in a way that builds long-term emotional regulation skills?
Great question. At the core of it, it's really important to view children of this age group as very busy brain builders. They are still creating all of the emotional wiring in their brain that will help them make, their own decisions later. And there's still such a big learning curve with their impulses, managing big feelings and reasoning. So their system literally just gets overloaded. Tantrums are a classic sign of this, and that the emotional part of the brain is in charge, and a little help is needed to help them calm down and manage those big feelings. When we are helping parents learn how to manage tantrums, we encourage parents to stay calm in the moment. It might be hard, but it's a really great way for us to model to the child how to manage their feelings. So by us staying calm, it lets them know that it's safe to go through these processes and that we're going to be with them as they go through the emotion and hopefully out the other end. And this is the basis of emotional regulation. And it's also going to connect into self-esteem later as well. But what we want to do is just stay calm with them. And the second thing we want to do is start to name the emotion so that the child gets to know what they're going through. And then they start to develop the language that's going to help support them with that as they get older. There's so many great books out there about naming emotions, and that's going to help also with their language development at this age as well. They really also benefit if we show them how to co-regulate emotions together. So our deep breathing, our trying to be grounded and present in the moment is really going to help anchor them. So that would be my takeaway.
I've actually found breathing a really valuable tool for a toddler having a meltdown, just taking that moment and breathing with them. I find it really just gives you a pause, and that oxygen just helps their whole nervous system come down a little bit. I'd recommend it. Yeah.
We do a silly breathing exercise where we hold up the fingers and blow out the candle. It often turns the overwhelm into laughter. It's such a good circuit breaker.
Absolutely. Karen, can we talk about discipline? It's such a loaded word and it means different things to different people. What would you say is a healthy approach to discipline that keeps relationships strong?
Steph, you're so right. It really is a loaded word, and it often comes with expectations from others around us about what discipline should look like. At the heart of it, 2 and 3-year-olds really still need a lot of guidance about managing behaviours that, you want to help stop those behaviours. You want to set boundaries in place so that the child will feel more secure knowing where those boundaries are. So we also want those boundaries to be consistent. So we do need follow through at this point as well. We want to let them know in a clear and calm way what those boundaries are. We want to get on their level. We want to use eye contact. We want to make sure they're really hearing us. So when our kids have boundaries, they actually gain a really great sense of safety, and it really helps with their feelings of their own security. And then they can put their focus more into the learning and growing of being a 2 and 3-year-old. It's really interesting too, Steph, that the word discipline actually really means to teach. So give them time to practice. Give them a reminder about the boundary that you've shared with them. Or if they're really struggling, maybe give them a chance to try it another way. We want to keep our connection strong with our child, and that's why the focus is more on teaching and not controlling. And that's really what's going to keep our connection strong.
I think that's some really good advice there. Yeah. So depending on the makeup of your family, there might be 1 decision maker, 2, maybe 3, depending if there's grandparents as well involved. What happens when parents and carers don't actually agree on how to approach behaviour and discipline? It can put strains on relationships between yourselves and also with your children. I know that I have got older children now from my first marriage. They were at that 2 and 3 year phase when we separated. So even though we're not in a marriage anymore, we still have a relationship as parents, and those disagreements can be difficult to manage, especially when there's shared custody and you don't share a home anymore. We found that raising children together but separately has meant that there's a lot more need for communication, which isn't always easy, but it also means that sometimes you have to admit that there are better ways of doing things than the way you think is the right way. But I've found also along the way that parenting is very instinctive. It comes from I guess, some quite deep-seated places as to how you were parented, the role models you had growing up, societal expectations, and that can differ from person to person. So there are times when we've just fundamentally disagreed on the way forward and the right decision to make. So how should people approach this in order to help their children make the best informed decisions they can?
Yeah, great question. Thanks, Alex. And you really touched on something there. It's interesting. We might have ideas as we come into parenting that, I'm not going to do this or that when I'm a parent. And then we find ourselves maybe doing something. And then it's just really good to know that there's something called procedural memory. And we sometimes just do things out of a habit, an ingrained sort of a legacy of our own childhood. And so therefore, as parents, one thing that's really helpful is developing the powers of observation of what's going on for us and where is this coming from. And that way we can then kind of explore that and think about how we do want to do things. And there's a few steps involved in that. And I think just knowing that there's a process involved is really helpful, because we come into parenting and it's an ongoing journey. And as our kids are learning so much, we also have to learn so much alongside of them, but we don't really realise that that's going on. So it does help to then take that time to sort of observe what's going on for us, and then put the time into thinking, well, what direction do I want to take this in? But you're right, when it comes to navigating this journey as well and doing it together as parents, we really need to know how to work out those shared responses in managing the behaviour of our kids, and that can make it really, really tricky as well. So we really want to make sure that we're having those discussions with our parenting partners when things aren't heightened. We want to find time when it's, a more calm time. And that's tricky, because we're all going to be escalated at different times. And that's life, really, as parenting. And knowing that, I think, is half the battle. So taking the time when we're feeling calm, and then we can really come up with shared strategies. So one thing to consider is that we really need to take the time to work out a shared response to managing behaviour. And the best time to do that is when things aren't tense. So don't do it during the middle of high emotions. Bookmark it, come back to it later, put it on the shelf, and then take the time together later to develop a bit of a plan. And yeah, sometimes parents, we're individuals, so we're always going to have different styles to each other. And it's really being able to communicate with each other, having compassion and empathy for what our partners are going through, and supporting each other and trying new ways and observing those and seeing what's working and not working. It really is about teamwork. That would be my takeaway on that one.
It's good advice for any parent, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think I found that over time you kind of figure out what one parent's good at and what the other parent's good at, and you kind of give each other that space to okay, this is your moment to deal with this one, and you're good at that, and I'll come in for the other thing.
Yeah.
Even if one's struggling, we'll be having a hard time individually with one child, and we tap out. Because when you come in fresh, you actually do a way better job. You're not better at it, but you've got this calm that you bring to the situation that you couldn't possibly have if you're 1 hour into helping your child through a meltdown.
Yeah, and I think we forget as well that we're tired, and that impacts our ability to be good parents. I think we all need to give ourselves a bit of grace sometimes as well, to be I can see that you're really tired. Can I give you a hand? And sometimes that's hard when you're in the moment, because you're if you're the one receiving that advice, you're well, no, I can do this, I'm fine. But sometimes you do need to just take a step back and be no, I'm really tired. I do need some help, and to sort of raise that flag to be I actually can't do this, I need to tap out. Sometimes that's not always possible if you're home alone or you're a single parent or whatever, but, it is important to recognise in yourself that it's not a failing of yourself to be tired.
Absolutely.
Or to be struggling. That's a normal response to the situation that you're in.
Yeah. You're just doing your best, aren't you?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to use your blowing out the candles for myself, actually, not just for the kids, but for the parents as well.
I actually did it with my daughter last night, and I blew out some, and it just makes you breathe, which you kind of forget to do when you're heightened. You're in that fight or flight response, and your brain's not working effectively. And it does help.
Yeah.
And who doesn't love a birthday candle? Let's hear now from Katie, a single parent sharing how she lent on her family when her child was young.
Having a little baby as a single parent, extremely challenging, but I was very, very fortunate that I had a very supportive family. So I moved back in with my parents and was just so grateful to have their support. It's not just having them physically present, but just also being able to duck out for a moment if you need to, or just having that sense of reassurance and support and comfort that you're doing a good job. And obviously the bond that they've been able to create is very special. They're very close. Oh my God, I'm going to get upset. It's like happy tears, actually. Like, yeah, they are very close. And I think people do say that a lot. Oh, you should be so proud of yourself or whatever, but you just don't. The parent, I've always said, if you just trust your gut, I think, and go with that gut instinct, I think you'll do pretty well in raising a child.
Beautiful.
I know, I've got little tears in my
Me too.
eyes.
Me too. So you do get that sense of wanting to do a good job and second guessing yourself. And the fact that Katie clearly cares so much, it just speaks volumes that like she is doing a good job, and sounds like she had a good support network around her when her child was really young.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think for single parents, having been one myself, that support network is important, more than you realise. I didn't have it, so my entire family doesn't live in Queensland, and I moved up here because that's where my wife's family was from. So when we were having children, that was our decision to move up here so she could be closer to her family. Mm. But then separating at that young age for the kids was a real kind of rupture for me, because you had this whole life planned ahead of you. You know, once you have kids, you know what it's like. You start imagining them much older. You start imagining the outcomes, what you're going to be like as a parent. And suddenly that was just kind of pulled out from under your feet, and not having that support, not having those family members nearby. I definitely, listening to Katie's story just there, it just hit me just how much that would have been valuable and how much I could have lent on that during that period, rather than feeling like you're making so many mistakes all the time, which I mean, you feel like as a parent anyway.
Yeah.
But it's kind of amplified, I think, when you are solo and you've got no one to measure that against, and no one to kind of, was that a good reaction? Was that a right decision? Did I give them too much leeway? Was I too harsh? Like, you can't sit down and unpack that with somebody when you're on your own.
Yeah. Especially when your kids are 2 and 3. Like you said, there's so little. It is a really tricky time to parent as well.
It really is. And they're so time consuming, right? Because suddenly, like you said earlier before the show, like they're not potatoes anymore. They're kind of, they're moving, they're people, they've got emotions, they've got needs and wants, and they're mobile, and they've got energy to burn. And by the end of the day, all you want to do is tuck them up and get them off to sleep. But yeah, once they are off to sleep, I just remember that sense of, wow, was today a good day?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that thing that Katie said about the reassurance as well. I don't know. I sometimes feel like when you're going through these things and everything's new to you, like you almost feel like a child again in some ways, because you're like, I have no idea what I'm doing. Who can I look to tell me that I'm doing a good job? Because sometimes you are doing a good job on paper, but your child is still having these massive tantrums, and you feel like, well, I've done all the things that they said I should do, but I'm not getting the results that I want. That's not your litmus test necessarily, is how your child's reacting to you. So it's like you are like a child looking for someone to pat you on the back and say you are doing a good job, because it's hard. You don't know if you are or not. And sometimes the things that you're doing might not have immediate results, and you can't always see that, and you don't know what you're doing.
And it's not like having a hobby. You know, it's not like, come back and do it better next time. It's like you get one shot at this generally. I know it's a long road, but you want to do the best you can. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Karen, Katie's story is such a good reminder that you don't need to do it all alone. What stood out to you?
Yeah, you're so right, Steph. I mean, solo parents are handling so much, and there's such a genuine potential for overwhelm. So I agree that it's so important to give yourself as a solo parent the same kindness and compassion that you would give your own children, and fill your own cup. We really need lots of self-care there for ourselves, because we can't pour from an empty cup. And we use that analogy a lot at work. We want to have a full cup so that we can keep giving. But how do we do that when we're solo parents? And I appreciate the stresses that might be there. And it's true. It does take a village to raise a child. And even those micro moments in a day where, even if it's a cup of tea or sitting in the sun for a minute, just being able to fill your cup in little ways so that we've got more capacity to give. So it's really important to not aim for perfection as well. Being good enough is certainly enough.
Karen, it seems to be a bit of a recurring theme in this episode, in this age group, that things just don't quite go smoothly as planned. There's yelling, there's crying, sometimes not just from the kids. Can you talk about when things fall apart, how do you get them back together? What matters most when things just go completely off the rails?
Yeah, great question, Alex. Before we were talking about having a full cup, and we know that cup's going to get depleted. And often that's exactly the times when we might lose our cool sometimes. And that's so normal. It's a normal part of life, but it's how we deal with it that is the important thing. Because it's ironically that the child learned that making mistakes is just a part of life. And it's how we repair after we make mistakes like lose our cool, lose our temper. But that actually ironically helps the child feel more secure when we model to them how emotional repair is done. So that's done by reconnecting back with the child, but it's also knowing that, our cup's empty. We need a bit of time out for ourselves as well to fill that cup up and take that time that we might need. But reconnecting with our child is what's really important. Take time with them to cuddle, talk through what happened, and reconnect with them.
So it's okay to not quite live up to our own expectations and admit that to our kids and talk that through with them?
Absolutely. And we're also going back to that term that we used before about being good enough. We're not aiming for perfection here. Making mistakes or losing our cool is a part of life. And then if we can model the behaviour to them about how we reconnect after we make a mistake or we lose our cool is really, really important for our child. And ironically then adds to their level of security because they get to see that this is a part of life and this is how we do it.
I've seen that really help in my parenting. Way back when my son was two or three-ish, I did the Circle of Security program, and it helped me so much to sort of understand attachment, but also this concept of rupture and repair. So, I clearly am not a perfect parent and I try not to be. I did at the beginning and put a lot of pressure on myself, but the program helped me understand it's okay to make mistakes. So my husband and I, really try and repair with the children when we don't quite get it right. And it can be as simple for us as sitting down and Mummy's really sorry, Mummy shouldn't have yelled. I felt out of control in my feelings. I got really frustrated. It's, not okay to yell. And how did that make you feel? And I'm really sorry for making you feel that way. And I'm going to try and do it differently next time. And having this really beautiful conversation with them that's quite honest and a little bit vulnerable, it's made such a difference, not just for us and our attachment with the children, but their relationship as well. We've brought it into our parenting. We go, can you please go and repair with your sister? Notice how she's feeling. Look, she's crying. How do you think she's feeling if she's crying? What could you do to help her feel better? And it's really given us that playbook of that relationship and the connection that we have and how to genuinely apologize and genuinely bring it back to this nice place after you've had that rupture and things haven't gone the way that you hoped they would.
I love that. And that's something that it seems really funny to say out loud, but there's a lot of adults that don't know how to do that as well. I don't think that that's something that necessarily comes naturally to everyone. It's something that some of us have learnt over experience of a number of years, but some haven't.
That's something I learned from the kids, was very much like, this actually seems to work when they see you for the full person, not just this kind of caricature of a parent, of what a parent should be,
Yeah. And you can't keep that up all the time.
No, it's exhausting. It's exhausting.
Exactly. And you're around them 24/7. Maybe you can be like that in your professional life or around your friends, but you're with these little people all the time. You can't be on all the time. We're all going to make mistakes. We have to just learn how to deal with that once we do.
I found it really helps you let go of things as well, not hold on to that feeling, that frustration. Just, it's gone. Okay, we've talked about it. It's gone. We've named it.
Absolutely. And then when we're moving on from that, when we're starting fresh, what are some of the small ways that we can help our toddlers to start understand and to also manage their emotions from day to day?
Yeah, that's a great question, Steph. It really is amazing too how in the ordinary day-to-day moments that you share with your child, it really does contribute so much to their understanding about emotions. And of course, as we've talked about, books and stories are really valuable at this age for helping toddlers learn about emotions. And it can also help us as parents and caregivers to have some more confidence with that material. And it might open up some extended conversations that you can play with the kids to help explore it and really bed down their understanding of those feelings. Parents can also show a little bit of thinking out loud by sharing some of the things that they're curious about, saying, oh, look, the dog looks so excited to go for a walk, or Dad looks so tired tonight as he's walking in, or Grandma's so happy to see us. We're naming emotions as we're seeing them. But just being there for our children and offering comfort or a warm presence when they are going through big emotions will be what gives them a lot of help along the way. And it shows them that feelings can be shared, not to be afraid of feelings and to suppress and hide them. And through that, we are helping them to form the basis of their own emotional regulation and also their self-esteem. So it's really important stuff.
I feel like emotional literacy is a gift you can give your children as well. I know a lot of adults, including myself, that struggle to work out how we're feeling. In our family, having a child who's neurodivergent, we've obviously done a ton of work on naming emotions, and we've worked with therapists, and we've read about 4 million books, I would say. The goal was to reduce meltdowns and help get through those really hard feelings. But in our 4-year-old, we've seen she's just latched onto this and couldn't get enough of naming her feelings. She was 1 and she'd pipe up at the top of 1. She wasn't a baby 1-year-old, but she'd pipe up and say, I'm in the green zone today, Mummy. And it's good for you, babe. It was so cute. She's super confident naming her emotions and sharing how she feels. And we had this really beautiful moment at the shops the other day. We were buying toys for friends' kids, and she was having a pretty hard time with it and getting upset. I want a toy, Mummy, I want a toy. Why can't I have a toy? On repeat 1 million times. And she pipes up, I'm feeling jealous, Mummy. And it was such a moment because jealousy is a really hard emotion to name for anyone, I think, especially a 4-year-old. And I sat down on the floor in the shops and we had a good chat about what jealousy was and why she felt jealous. And we were able to not have a big meltdown in the middle of the shops and work through it, and then kicked on, and we bought the presents for the friends. We were able to resolve it. We had a really nice moment having a yarn about jealousy, and we left the shops, and that was the end of it. That seeing that emotional literacy develop in her and my son has been really incredible, and it takes a bit of work, but the benefit really pays off.
I'm just curious how she learned that she was jealous. Where did that knowledge come from?
We've read a lot of books, and we talk about how jealousy feels like a green monster inside of you, and the green monster has a hard time feeling happy for other people, and that other people might have something you don't, and the feeling that you get that might not feel good from that is jealousy. And then we've also switched it around talking about how people might feel jealous of you as well. So it's a universal feeling, and just because someone else might have something you don't, you might have things someone else doesn't as well.
The capacity to learn just astounds me, even from such a young age, that emotional literacy. It's you just got to give them the tools and they can figure out the rest, hey?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And when they go from just absorbing it all, you definitely see that phase where they're just a sponge and they're just grabbing everything or repeating everything you're saying. But then when they turn around and they're actually using it in the right way, sometimes inappropriately, but the context is spot on. And they go from just absorbing to then actually being able to process it and spit it out.
Karen, thank you so much for being here with us today and having this conversation. And also a big thanks to Katie for sharing her really personal story with us. Before we wrap things up, though, what are 3 things that you'd love to leave parents of 2 to 3-year-olds with today?
Well, we have covered just so much ground today. But I think, first of all, remembering that toddlers really are very busy building those brains and learning so much, especially about emotions. Second, that co-regulating with them and being calm with them in those tricky moments is the key and will help guide their learning. And finally, when mistakes happen, and they will, reconnecting afterwards helps with growing stronger bonds.
Yeah, that co-regulating, I think, is my big takeaway today. Just really leveling with them about where you're at as a parent, where they're at as a child, and it's really building that relationship, isn't it, as you go through.
I really loved the really manageable self-care moments that you suggested. Self-care doesn't have to be going to a day spa for the whole day. It can be as simple as a warm cup of tea, enjoying the sunshine, taking a small moment for yourself, which is really achievable when you're a busy parent. What about you, Steph?
Yeah, I loved just having a moment to chat all together and take a step out of the day-to-day. Like, you get so caught up when you're going through the motions of things, labeling those things like the rupture and repair. That really resonated with me. It's things that you do, but you don't really step back and perhaps think about it too much. So I like putting a name to it. I think it will frame my mindset going into those tough moments going forward as well. Because, with a toddler, there are a lot of them happening at my house at the moment. Next episode, we'll be talking about 3 to 4 years, all about their routines, friendships, and prepping for kindy. Until then, be kind to yourself, and remember, if no one else has told you today, you're doing an amazing job. Bye.